Hi students, welcome back to our online class. We are starting the fourth lesson of your general science and the lesson is carbon and its compounds. So let's start this lesson. We will start with the occurrence of carbon. Carbon is most abundantly present element. It exists in the nature in different forms. Carbon exists in the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide gas. It is present on the earth crust. It is present below the earth crust. It is present in all the living organisms. The blood, the bones, the muscles, all the tissues in our body, they contains carbon dioxide. So carbon as an element. Carbon is present in the food we eat, the medicines we take, the clothes we wear, even the soaps that we use, everything they contains carbon. Carbon is present in the fuel in the form of wood, in the form of coal, charcoal, coke, petroleum, natural gas, biogas, marsh gas, etc. Above all, carbon also exists in the nature in free forms, like in the form of diamond as well as in the form of graphite that we use in our lead pencils. Now, carbon, as this is a very important element and it is existing in the nature in different forms as well as in different compounds. Carbon forms compound by forming bond. So we were discussing, this is the bonding in carbon, and the carbon element produces the covalent bond. What is covalent bond? You have already learned it in your class 9. So we are not going to discuss what is covalent bond and all. So let's discuss only how carbon forms covalent bond. The atomic number of carbon is 6. You can see it is given here. Atomic number of carbon is 6. You can see this is in the slide. And its electronic configuration is therefore 2, 4. In the first orbit of carbon, there will be 2 electrons, and in the second orbit, which is the outermost orbit, will contain 4 electrons. According to Cosell and Lavish, that is the octet rule, it says any element to get a stable electronic configuration must have 8 electrons in its outermost orbit. But carbon has 4. So carbon needs to maintain 8 electrons in its outermost orbit in order to become stable. For that, carbon has 2 options. One is carbon has to accept 4 electrons from other element to make it 8, or it has to donate all the 4 valence electrons present in its outermost orbit. But none is possible. Why it is not possible? Because in the nucleus of carbon, there are only 6 protons. If 4 more electrons are to be acquired for another atom, then total there will be 10 electrons. Because already carbon has 6 electrons and it requires 4 more to get stable electronic configuration. It means that there should be 10 electrons in order to get a stable electronic configuration. But this is not possible for the 6 protons. These are present inside the nucleus of carbon to hold 6 electrons in its orbits. Therefore, carbon cannot accept 4 electrons from any element. Neither can carbon donate all these 4 electrons because carbon atom does not have that much of energy to release all the 4 electrons from its outermost orbit. That is why carbon has only one option left, and that is carbon has to share all the 4 valence electrons present in its outermost orbit, and in this way by sharing the 4 electrons, carbon forms covalent bond. Now carbon, you can see here, it is in the second part of the slide, it is given. It shares 4 electrons with other atoms to attain stability, resulting in the formation of covalent bonds. Since carbon atom needs 4 electrons to attain stability, therefore its covalency, that is valency, is 4, and therefore carbon is a tetravalent element. We can see here in the diagram, we are showing this is the diagram of carbon atom and depicting the 4 valence electrons. This is the first, second, third, and this is fourth. And these 4 valence electrons will be shared by carbon atoms with some other monovalent element, and in that way carbon will form 4 covalent bonds. This is, we are representing in the second diagram with 4 covalent bonds. Carbon is exhibiting tetracovalency. Now, formation of covalent bond. How carbon atom forms covalent bond? Carbon always forms covalent bond by sharing of valence electrons, as we have already mentioned. But sharing of electron means when carbon will share electrons, it will, suppose carbon is sharing 1 electron with an element, then that element also should share one element. Means both the atoms mutually will share one pair of electron. In this way, by sharing one pair of electron, if any covalent bond is formed, such covalent bonds are called as single covalent bond. You got it in your class 9. Similarly, when two pairs of electrons are shared between two atoms, one is carbon and the other is other monovalent element, then they will form a double covalent bond. And similarly, when three pairs of electrons are shared between the carbon and other element, then there will be a triple bond. We will start all these covalent bonds like single bond, double bond and triple bond, but initially let's start with the formation of single bond. You can see here in the slide, it is the red mark ink, we are just writing it. Formation of single covalent bond, and we are just getting it in as an example of the formation of hydrogen molecule. The atomic number of hydrogen is 1. So its electronic configuration is also 1. It means that in the outermost orbit of hydrogen there is only one electron. According to Cosen and Lavish, the first orbit of hydrogen must have 2 electrons. It means carbon has to obtain one more electrons in its outermost orbit. So when hydrogen needs to get one more electron from other element, hydrogen will share the only electron that is present its outermost, means the only orbit it has around the nucleus. From that, whatever the electron it has, it will be shared with another hydrogen atom. We can explain it by taking the help of this diagram. You can see here, this is the diagram. We are having this first hydrogen atom and this is the second hydrogen atom. Both the hydrogen atoms have one electron each. So they are unstable. To get stability, what they are doing, they are sharing one pair of electron. Means both the hydrogen are keeping their electrons in such a place that both the hydrogens mutually can occupy this hydrogen to be their own. In that way, one pair of electron is shared between these two atoms of hydrogen, and as a result, hydrogen molecule is formed. You can see this is between hydrogen and hydrogen. A single dash is formed. This single dash represents a single covalent bond, and this is how a hydrogen molecule is formed. Formation of double bond. And we are taking this time oxygen molecule as an example to understand what is a double covalent bond. The atomic number of oxygen is 8, and therefore its electronic configuration will be 2,6. What does it mean? It means it has 6 valence electron, means in the outermost orbit it has 6 electrons. What did Cosen and Lavish say? They said to obtain the stable electronic configuration, even oxygen atom must have 8 electrons in their valence shells. But what about our oxygen atoms? These oxygen atoms have only 6 electrons. That is why two oxygen atoms will mutually come very close to each other. We can see it here in this diagram. This is the first oxygen atom having 6 electrons in the outermost shell. This is the second oxygen having all the 6 electrons in its valence shells, means outermost shell. And they are sharing 2 pairs of electrons, we can see in between, 2 pairs of electrons. And as a result, we can see the first oxygen is also having now 8 electrons within this circle. And the second oxygen is also having 8 electrons within this circle. Means these 2 pairs of electrons are when shared, then both the oxygens are getting a stable electronic configuration. And this is how we can see these 2 oxygen atoms are combining together with the help of a double bond. This is the double bond we are depicting. And as a result, oxygen atom is formed. Now let's come back to the triple bond, and this triple bond can be explained with the help of the formation of nitrogen molecule. So what is the atomic number of nitrogen? It is 7. So its electronic configuration is 2,5. It means that outermost orbit of nitrogen has 5 electrons. In order to get stable electronic configuration, nitrogen must have 8 electrons. So what nitrogen will do? 2 nitrogen atoms will mutually come very close to each other. We can see here, this is the first nitrogen atom, second nitrogen atom, and both the nitrogen atoms have 5 electrons. And to make it 8 in their each, in case of each condition, they are sharing 3 pairs of electrons. We can see here the first nitrogen and second nitrogen, they are sharing 3 pairs of electron in such a way that both the nitrogen can now say that they have 8 electrons in their valence shell, and this is how both the nitrogen atoms are joined together by a triple bond. We can see here this is the triple bond. The triple bond is formed, and as a result the nitrogen molecule is formed. This is how we have just come to know that by sharing of one pair of electron a single bond was formed in case of hydrogen molecule. By sharing of 2 pairs of electrons a double bond is formed in case of the oxygen molecule, which is displayed in this slide in the first diagram. And in case of nitrogen, we have seen 3 pairs of electrons are shared between the 2 atoms of nitrogen to form nitrogen molecule. So this is how the single covalent bond, double covalent bond and triple covalent bonds are formed. In this diagram, we can see first diagram is showing how 2 nitrogen atoms are combining together by sharing 1 pair of electron. We can see between these 2 hydrogen atoms there is only 1 pair of electron is shared. In the second diagram, this is fluorine atom. Its outermost orbit containing only 7 electrons. So its atomic number is 9. So electronic configuration is 2, 7. So last orbit is containing 7 electrons. It needs 8. And so these 2 fluorine atoms are sharing 1 pair of electron in between them, and a single bond is formed between the 2 fluorine atoms to produce fluorine molecule. Third, we can see oxygen. Already we have this. Sorry, this is first is oxygen and second is carbon. Oxygen has 6 electrons in the outermost orbit. Carbon has 4 electrons. Now, when oxygen and carbon they will combine, they will produce carbon dioxide. And in the formation of carbon dioxide, we can see the carbon is sharing 2 electrons with the left side oxygen, and the same carbon atom is sharing the remaining 2 electrons with the right side oxygen atom. Already oxygen has 6 and 6 electrons, so the carbon is also having now 8, because 2 and 2 total 4 its own, and 2 from left side oxygen, 2 from the right side oxygen, getting stable electronic configuration, and similarly the oxygens as well. And for that reason, what is happening, carbon is actually sharing 2 pairs of electrons, 2 pairs of electrons with 2 oxygen atoms, and this is how double bond is produced in carbon dioxide molecule. And at the last, we have seen 1 fluorine atom. This is 1 fluorine atom having 7 valence electrons, and this is 1 carbon atom having only 4 valence electrons. So what is to be done? Therefore, we will need total 4 fluorine atoms, and all the 4 fluorine atoms will share one electron with carbon atoms, and as a result carbon will combine with 4 chlorine atoms to produce carbon tetrafluoride, and in that case between each time carbon and fluorine is combining with 1 single covalent bond. So in this way we have seen carbon forms compounds by formation of single covalent bonds, double covalent bonds and triple covalent bond. But how this covalent bond is formed, to understand it we need to learn something about the electron dot picture. This also you have learned in class 9, so we are not going to discuss much about this. However, we are just representing it. Electron dot picture means we will depict only the number of electrons present in the outermost orbit of an element or atom. Suppose oxygen, its atomic number is 8, means definitely it has 8 proton as well as 8 electrons. But we will not drawing all the 8 electrons of oxygen while drawing the diagram. We will depict or describe or write only those electrons which are present in the outermost orbit. So how many electrons are present in the outermost orbit of oxygen? 6. Therefore, in case of oxygen, when we will draw the electron dot picture, instead giving 8 electrons, we will give only 6 electrons, and then that will be called as electron dot picture of oxygen. Similarly, we can see here carbon. Here we can see this is electron dot picture having 4 electrons. Hydrogen only 1 electron, 1 electron, 1 electron, 1 electron. So this hydrogen, 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 these are the electron dot picture of hydrogens, and in the middle this is electron dot picture of carbon. So they will share electrons. Carbon and hydrogen will share here, carbon and hydrogen, carbon and hydrogen, carbon and hydrogen, and we can see in this way carbon and hydrogen will form methane. So this is how the formation of methane takes place, by sharing of electrons, and we can see here 4 covalent bonds in methane, and all are formed by sharing of electrons, and we represent it like this. Similarly, in case of ethane molecule, we will have 2 carbon atoms and they will share their electrons with total 6 hydrogen atoms. And this is the electron dot picture, and this is how the ethane molecule is formed. So with the help of electron dot picture, we can explain or we can understand the formation of covalent bond. We are now coming to the second part of this lesson, and that is versatile nature of carbon. Means this is the versatile property. Versatile property means this is a unique property of carbon. This is the property that only belongs to carbon. Other elements will never show this type of properties. So we call these are unique properties or versatile property. Carbon forms a very large numbers of compounds. This is a special ability of carbon. The number of carbon atom is more than 3 million. So you must just imagine the number. More than 3 million different types of compounds carbon atoms can form. It is more than the number of compounds formed by all other elements. So this is amazing. But the question, how this is possible? Why this is possible? This is possible because two versatile nature or versatile properties. And the first is carbon atoms can bind with other carbon atoms. This is not unique because hydrogen atom can also combine with hydrogen atom. Oxygen also can combine with oxygen. But the question is, how many hydrogen atoms can combine with each other? Maximum 2. How many oxygen atoms can combine with each other? Maximum 2, or in case of ozone it is 3. Not more than that. But carbon atoms, when will combine with other carbon atoms, there is no limit. It can combine one after another, and in that way it will form a very long chain of carbon atoms. This property is called as catenation property of carbon. So this catenation property of carbon is a versatile nature of carbon. The other elements will never show this property as carbon atoms can do. Another interesting thing, that is second versatile property, since carbon's valency is 4, it can form bonds with other atoms or with atoms of other elements like hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, halogens like chlorine, bromine, fluorine, iodine, and many other elements. It can form compounds. So in that way, carbon, due to its versatile nature, that is number one reason is due to catenation property, and second due to its tetracovalency, it can form long chains of carbon. And these chains, when they form, the chains can be of 3 types. One is, this is, we can very easily see in the diagram, the long chain. You can see here carbon, 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 carbon. They are combining with each other, forming a long chain. This is long straight chain. Or the chain may be branched, as we can see in the second one, this one, this one. You can see here 4 carbon atoms are held together. They are just joining one after another in a straight chain. Then the 5th carbon atom, you can see here in the diagram, the 5th one is just from the 3rd carbon atom. You can see it has appeared as a branch, and this is why we can say this type of chains are called as branch chain. Or it may happen that carbon atoms can combine in the form of a ring, and then it will form a closed ring structure. So due to catenation property, when carbon will form a very big chain, the chain may be either straight chain, that is a long chain, or maybe a branch chain, or sometimes it may be a closed chain. And in that way, what happens, carbon can form different compounds. In the form of long chain, they form different compound. In the form of branch chain, they form other different compounds. And in the form of closed chain, they form other different compounds. So now let's see again the saturated and unsaturated carbon compounds. Now question is, what is saturated carbon compounds? Hydrocarbons are the compounds which are formed by only carbon and hydrogen. So they are called as binary compounds of carbon and hydrogen. These hydrocarbons are carbon compounds, and they can be saturated as well as unsaturated. Some examples of hydrocarbons can be methane CH4, ethane C2H6. In both the examples, we will see only carbon and hydrogen. Saturated hydrocarbons are those hydrocarbons where between carbon atoms you will always find a single covalent bond. You will never find a double bond or a triple bond. Such hydrocarbons are called as saturated. So I repeat, saturated hydrocarbons are those hydrocarbons where between the carbon atoms you will always find a single covalent bond. So what is single covalent bond? That is a chemical bond formed by sharing only one pair of electrons. Examples of saturated hydrocarbons are like alkenes. They have always single covalent bonds between the carbon atoms, and all the alkanes have the names added with a suffix, and the suffix is ane. You can see it is given here ane. That suffix is given to all hydrocarbons which are saturated. For example, methane, and the last three letters are ane. Ethane, propane, butane, hexane, heptane, octane, all these compounds, they belong to saturated hydrocarbons, and these saturated hydrocarbons since have ane as a suffix in their name, so we can very easily understand by just hearing the name or reading the name whether it is saturated or unsaturated. All these saturated hydrocarbons are called as alkanes. So you can see some examples. This is the methane molecule, it is carbon in the middle, and blue color, these are the 4 hydrogen atoms. So between carbon and hydrogen, these are all single bonds. Since there is single bond, this is a saturated hydrocarbon. Here this is ethane. The yellow structures, these 2 structures are carbon atoms, and you can see the green structures are their hydrogen atoms. Now you can see to each carbon atom 3 hydrogen atoms are joined, and between carbon and carbon there is a single bond. Since between carbon and carbon there is single bond, so this is a saturated hydrocarbon. So methane and ethane both are saturated hydrocarbons. But when it is the matter of unsaturated hydrocarbon, let's see, this is unsaturated hydrocarbons. They will have always either a double bond or a triple bond between the carbon and carbon, adjacent carbon atoms. You can see here in the diagram, just look at this diagram. This is the ethene molecule, ethene. And in ethene molecule, between this carbon and carbon, there are 2 pairs of electrons shared. You can see very clearly, and therefore there will be a double bond. Since there will be a double bond between the carbon and carbon, this cannot be saturated, it is unsaturated. This type of unsaturated hydrocarbons where you will find a double bond, they are called as alkenes. Saturated were alkanes, but these are alkenes, and their names will have always a suffix added to them, and the suffix is ene. You can see it is ene, but in case of alkane it was ane. So what are alkenes? You can see here it's given in the red ink. You can see the red link sentence. Alkenes have a double covalent bond between 2 adjacent carbon atoms, and their names end with a suffix ene. Examples of some alkenes, like you can see within brackets, they are given here: ethene, then alkynes, we'll come to the later to the alkynes, ethene. Similarly, not only ethene, it may be propene, butene, pentene, hexene, heptene. While they were alkane, it was methane, ethane, propane. But ethane is now becoming ethene because it is alkene. Propane will become propene, butane will become butene, pentane will become pentene, like that. These are all alkenes having double bond between carbon and carbon. But alkynes, these are also unsaturated hydrocarbons. The only difference between alkene and alkyne is that alkenes have double covalent bonds between carbon atoms, but in alkyne you will get triple covalent bond. If the bond between 2 carbon atoms is triple, this will be called as alkynes. We can see the examples. In the diagram, you can see this is the carbon atom left side, and this is another carbon atoms, and they are sharing 3 pairs of electrons. Very clearly you can see in the diagram. That is why you can see there are 2 carbon atoms, and they are holding together with 2 more hydrogen atoms, and in between carbon and carbon there is 3 pairs of electrons shared. So this is ethine. This ethine is alkyne. All alkynes have their names ended with a suffix yne. You can see here it's given yne. And this yne, whenever is there at the end of the name, you must know it is an alkyne. For example, it was ethane when it is alkane. When it become alkene, it become ethene. But in case of alkyne, now what we were discussing, it will become ethine. So ethane, ethene, ethine. Similarly, propane, propene, propyne. Similarly, butane, butene, butine. In this way, we can get the saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons. Isomers. This is the next part of your book. Now you can see this isomers. So carbon compounds have another very interesting property. What is that? Carbon compounds, when are formed, then you may get some carbon compounds in between. They will have same molecular formula. Their molecular formula will be same. Say for example, C4H10 is the molecular formula, and this formula can be seen in 2 different compounds. But what is the main problem? Their molecular formula is same, but their molecular structure is different. Their chemical structure is different. So you can see the carbon compounds having the same molecular formula, but different structural formula, then this type of compounds, carbon compounds, will be called as isomers. Isomers are those chemical compounds which are having same molecular formula but different structural formula or different molecular structure. This is isomer and the property is called as isomerism. Remember, the two isomers, it is not necessary that they should exhibit similar physical and similar chemical properties. It is because only they have same formula, but their structures are different. Since their structures are different, so it is obviously possible that they will have different physical and different chemical properties. To understand this isomer, let us take an example, and we are taking the example here is butane. You can see this is butane and its molecular formula is C4H10, means there will be 4 carbon atoms and 10 hydrogen atoms. But this butane has 2 isomers. Why? Because we will find two different butane in the nature. One is called as a normal butane, N-butane, and the other is called as isobutane, also is called as 2-methyl propane. Let's see to understand. This is the left side diagram you can see here. How many carbon atoms you can see here? 1, 2, 3 and 4. And count number of hydrogen atoms in this picture. You will get there are total 10 hydrogen atoms. So what is its formula? Formula is C4H10. Now between carbon and carbon atoms, what bond you can see? There is always a single covalent bond. So first of all, it is saturated hydrocarbon, saturated compound. It is hydrocarbon because only carbon and hydrogen is present. And the second thing, it is butane. Butane because it is alkane, so at the end it will be butane. These are the normal butane. So we call it as normal butane or N-butane. But in the nature, there can be another form of butane. Here you can see in the second diagram. So you can see 1, 2 and 3 carbon atoms. They are in the same. And then from the middle carbon atom, you can see this is from the middle carbon atom. 1 carbon atom is coming out as a branch. So total how many carbon atoms you can see? Total there are 4. Now count the hydrogen atoms present in this structure. To each carbon, hydrogen atoms are attached. On the left hand side to that carbon there are 3 hydrogen. On the right hand side in the carbon has 3 hydrogen. At the last the carbon atom has also, that is at the bottom it is also 3. So 3 carbon is having 3, 3, 3, total 9 hydrogen, and the 10th hydrogen is present in the middle carbon at the top. So this structure also contains 4 carbon atoms and 10 hydrogen atoms like the second one. So in both this structure, in both the structure there are 4 carbon atoms and 10 hydrogen atoms. So both the structures have molecular formula C4H10, but their structural formula is completely different. The second one on the right hand side we call it is isobutane. Also it is called as 2-methyl propane. 2-methyl propane. So both the structures are called as isomers. So this is a unique property of isomers. Coming to the next part, you are getting is functional group or group atoms. So what is functional group? An atom or a group of atoms, sometime you can see here is given one atom particularly, or sometimes a number of atoms which are present in the form of a group which decides their properties of the carbon compound are called as functional group. Sometimes in the carbon chain. Now what is the carbon chain? I just already have discussed in the straight chain or in the branch chain or maybe in the rings. There is a carbon chain. In that carbon chain, sometimes what happens, a particular atom from outside may be added. Somehow it can come and join. Or sometimes if not a single atom, then a group of atom may come and join. And due to arrival of that new atom or due to the arrival of that group of atoms, the entire property of the carbon compound will change. Then under that condition, that particular atom or that group of atom which has come and joined to change the property of the entire carbon compound is called as the functional group. There are different functional groups, and these different functional groups are given here in the left hand side. You can see these are haloalkanes, you can say halogens. Second is alcohol, third is aldehyde, fourth is ketone, fifth is carboxylic acid. Mainly these are then alkenes and alkynes. We will try to understand this. First is what is halogen or haloalkanes. Halogens or halogens, that means when to the normal carbon chain a halogen is added. Halogen is added means either chlorine is added or bromine is added, iodine is added or fluorine is added. Generally in the hydrocarbons there should be only carbon and hydrogen, only carbon and hydrogen. So in such a normal hydrocarbon, somehow from outside, other than carbon and hydrogen, something different is coming. What is that different? The different is coming, something is halogen, means maybe it is a chlorine, maybe it is a bromine or iodine or fluorine. Remember, they are not carbon or hydrogen. So if these halogens come and join with this main carbon chain, then the property of the carbon chain will change, and therefore these halogens are sometimes behave as functional group. So in methane structure, if a chlorine is added, then it will become chloromethane. In ethane, suppose if chlorine is added, then it will become chloroethane, like that. Second is we are coming to see alcohol. In the general property, alcohol is that functional group which is having an OH group. OH group, that is one oxygen and one hydrogen when will come together and join. You see, in the earlier time only one atom came, like chlorine, bromine, fluorine or iodine, but this time two atoms are coming together. What are the two atoms? One oxygen atom and one hydrogen atom. They will come as a group and they will join, and as a result this is called as a group atom, or it is a functional group. So this functional group is called as alcohol group, and whenever to any hydrocarbon compound this OH will come, it will become completely a different element. For example, ethane, which is a gas, ethane, C2H6. You can carefully observe, this is the structure, ethane. Remember, this is suppose hydrogen, this one is hydrogen, then this will be ethane. But this hydrogen, wherever I am just placing my cursor, this is hydrogen suppose, and now this hydrogen is substituted by OH group. The alcohol group has come, and then this will not remain as ethane gas, but it will become ethyl alcohol, also called as ethanol. Simply one hydrogen is replaced by a group atom. What is that group atom? OH group has come and it has replaced hydrogen. So from a gas, ethane, which was a gas, now it will turn out to be an alcohol, ethanol. Now come to the next one is aldehyde. Aldehyde is another functional group which is represented single dash CHO group. CHO group is coming. If CHO group will come and join with it, then it will become aldehyde, and all the aldehydes are named by a suffix added, that is called as null, and al. I have to go back to this one again, so I want to help you here. If a halogen is coming to a normal hydrocarbon, suppose to ethane, chlorine is coming, then it will become chloroethane. If bromine is coming, bromoethane. Iodine is coming, iodoethane. Fluorine is coming, fluoroethane. If alcohol is coming and joining with ethane, then it will become ethanol. Suppose to propane, alcohol group is added, then it will become propanol. So OL suffix is added because in the alcohol last two letters OL, and this OL will come. Methane will change to methanol, ethane will change to ethanol, propane will change to propanol, etc. Similarly, in case of aldehyde, I have already mentioned it, CHO group. If this group comes, it becomes aldehyde group. Then if it is coming with methane, it will become methanol, Al. If it is coming to ethane, it will become ethanol. Propane then will become propanol. Butane will become butanol. Why Al? In the aldehyde, the first two letters Al. So this Al will come and add as a suffix. Now ketone. Ketone is a CO, double bond CO. Double bond will be there, and a carbon and oxygen are coming together as a group atom, and it's joining any hydrocarbon will change the entire physical and chemical property of the compound, and under that condition this double bond CO is called as a ketone group. And if ketone group is coming, then the suffix will be added ONE. You can see ketone, the last three words ONE. For example, ethane. In ethane, if a ketone group is coming and added as, it will become ethanon. Propane will become propanon. Butane will become butanon, etc. Carboxylic acid is another functional group, and it is denoted with single dash COOH, carboxylic acid. To to any hydrocarbon chain, if a carboxylic acid is added, then the entire property of the hydrocarbon will change and will become an acidic hydrocarbon. So under that condition, we will just try to understand how they are named. If it is carbonic acid added to any hydrocarbon chain, then the name will be pronounced by adding a suffix, that is oic acid. For example, after ethane, if carboxylate acid is coming and joining, it will become ethanoic acid. Propane, then propane will become propanoic acid, butane will become butanoic acid, etc. Alkenes, we have already discussed what are alkenes. These are the double bond compounds, and alkynes are the triple bond compounds. Already we have discussed, so you have already understood that alkenes and alkynes like ethene, ethyne, propene, propyne, how they are named. This is haloalkanes. So for your maximum clarity, you are just coming to this. This is the carbon atom. You can see it is actually a methane, where 1, 2, 3, and this is 4 hydrogen. Suppose then it will be methane. But what is happening? This methane is replaced by a fluorine. Sorry, this hydrogen is replaced by fluorine. The hydrogen atom which was here has been substituted. Hydrogen is moved out and fluorine has entered. So it will not remain as methane. It will not remain as methane, but it will be called now as a fluoromethane. Fluoromethane, CH3F. It is called as fluoromethyl. Also can be called as methyl fluoride. Methyl fluoride. This is how halogen. Then alcohol, you can see this is methane. This is methane. Suppose this is where the cursor is present. This is hydrogen, not OH. Then this will be methane. But now that hydrogen is moved away, and in place of that, this group of atom, one oxygen and one hydrogen, has entered together and will entirely change the physical and chemical property of methane and will change to methanol. Methanol, also called as methyl alcohol. Methyl alcohol. The suffix added here is OL. OL. You can see OL. This is how the second aldehyde group, you can see in aldehyde there will be a group that is the functional group coming CHO, single dash CHO. This is the functional group. And whenever this group is attached to any carbon compound, it is an organic compound, the entire property will change and it will behave as an aldehyde. There will be two types of aldehydes, simple forms. You can see there are two simple aldehydes exist, and they are formaldehyde and acetaldehyde. Formaldehyde is HCHO, which is also called as methanol. Methanol, last AL is coming. And acetaldehyde is, that is CH3CHO, which is also called as ethanol. Methanol, ethanol. So these are aldehyde. All aldehydes are named by adding a suffix at the end of their name, and that is AL. Methanol, ethanol, propanol, butanol, pentanol, hexanol, like that. Okay. So let's come back to ketone, and this is the next functional group. Ketone this is the ketone group. This is the ketone group, you can see double bond CO is a ketone group. And whenever this ketone group is coming and joining with any hydrocarbon chain, it will also change the entire property, and as a result you will get different compounds. Example of some such structures may be methanon, ethanon. You can say after methane ONE, ethane coming, because ketone has ONE as the last three letters, and therefore this suffix is coming here. You can see the example. This is the main compound, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 hydrogen atoms, but here there were initially 2 hydrogen atoms. So one hydrogen atom was here, another hydrogen atom was here. These 2 hydrogen atoms have been replaced, and in place of that this compound has come, and so this has become a new group, CO. As a result, the structure has changed. We can see there are 4 carbon atoms, so it is butane, but since ketone group is added, so it will be butanon. You can see the name here last, butanon. This compound is called as butanon. Carboxylic acid, this is the carboxylic group, COOH, carboxylic group. Whenever this carboxylic group will be added to any hydrocarbon chain, then it will change the entire physical and chemical property of the hydrocarbon, and some oic acids will be formed. So we were getting, it is suppose methane, suppose the main compound, this is carbon atom, 4 hydrogen atoms should have been there then, but what is happening? COOH group has come here. This is COOH. Can you see this? Parts carbon, oxygen, oxygen and hydrogen. So it is COOH. COOH group is coming, and it is combining with hydrogen, so it is called as methanoic acid. Similarly, ethanoic acid, there are 2 carbon atoms, This is normal, what, 1 carbon 3 hydrogen, but to this carbon atom you can see COOH. This is again carboxylic group coming. So this ethane is now changing to ethanoic acid. Similarly, propane is changing to propanoic acid here. Butane is changing to butanoic acid. So this is how all these functional group or group atoms have changed the physical and chemical properties of this. Alkenes already we have discussed alkenes, but you will get the general formula of alkene is CnH twice N. Cn means if Cn is 2, then hydrogen will be 2 into 2, 4. So carbon atoms number is represented with the N. N is the natural number which can be equal to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For example, take this example, ethane C2H4. It comes under this formula. This is propane C3H6. This is C3, so hydrogen 3 2s are 6. This is carbon 4, so hydrogen 4 2s are 8. So it is coming in this formula. So this is the alkenes formula, and these are all examples of alkene: ethene, propene, butene, and these are their structures. This is the structure of ethene, this is the structure of propene, this is the structure of butene. And what is the speciality? I have already mentioned you earlier that all alkenes have a double covalent bond between two adjacent carbon atoms, and you can clearly see here in this case 2 carbon atoms are joined with a double bond. Here between these 2 carbon atoms there is a double bond, between these 2 carbon atoms there is a double bond. So whenever double bond will come in the carbon chain, it will be an alkene. And finally alkyne, you are getting it is in alkyne the general formula is CnH twice N minus 2. So this is the compound propyne. This is the structure. See, there are 3 carbon and 3 hydrogen. So 4 hydrogen, 1, 2, 3 and 4 hydrogen. Now see this carbon 3, 1, 2, 3, carbon 3 and hydrogen 2 3s are 6 minus 2, 4. So hydrogen's number should be 4. Yes, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this structure comes under this particular formula CnH twice N minus 2. Therefore it is an alkyne. In this alkyne there are 3 carbon atoms, so therefore it is propyne. What is the name? This name is propyne. C3H4, propyne. Now the chemical properties of carbon compounds, this will be discussed in my next class. Whatever we have discussed so far in this lesson is carbon as an element exists in the nature in different forms. Carbon is a very important element because it is producing more than 3 million compounds, and that number is more than the number of compounds formed by other elements. Carbon, when formed compounds, it always forms covalent bond. These covalent bonds may be single bond, double bond or triple bond. We have understood how single bond, double bond and triple bonds are formed. We have explained it by taking examples. Then we came to know about some versatile properties, versatile nature of carbon. Finally, we have come to understood what is isomerism, isomers, the isomers of carbon compounds. We discussed it by taking example of butane and isobutane. And then finally we have come to discuss the functional groups. Functional groups or group atoms, different functional groups like haloalkanes or halogens, alcohols, then we got aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acids, alkanes and alkynes. And the remaining part, if you see your textbook, you will get chemical properties of carbon compounds. From this we shall discuss in our next class. Thank you.